What a beautiful place this is. A really beautiful place indeed. And yet, these conditions are not ideal for my photography, and I'm not expecting to make a lot of good images today, if any. In fact, I rarely make good photographs. Most of my favorite images ever were made on just a handful of days. If I look back at these past few years, I can think of some of those magical moments that led to images I love. Like that misty afternoon in Portland 6-7 years ago when I made this image, or the morning I woke up to a winter wonderland in the Badlands in South Dakota. That was incredible. As incredible as it was the atmosphere at the forest of Fanal in Madeira, in the tiny island of Madeira in the middle of the Atlantic. Or that beautiful and unexpected foggy morning by the windmills in Castilla-La Mancha, the Don Quixote's windmills. The magic that happened in Indiana on a very, very, very cold winter of February 5-6 years ago. Also in Indiana, the brutal but beautiful snowstorm I spent at the golf course photographing the trees over there. Or the camping trip to northern Lake Michigan, where I had a beautiful foggy morning by the lake. I will never forget that moonrise in Oregon with the moon rising behind Mount Hood. Or that rainy morning in Asturias where we headed on a beautiful hike surrounded by incredible peaks. More recently, also at those same mountains of the Picos de Europa, that surreal atmosphere I had because of the Calima, all that dust and sand coming from the desert. Even though I have more favorites of mine made on not so special conditions, those were the 10 days, 10 moments that really define my photography. I will never forget what I was feeling at those times out there with my camera. Not only those moments deliver some of my best single images, but I was shooting like a maniac, and I have a lot of photographs from those days, very good photographs. My eyes were wide open, I was seeing and feeling. The conditions made for better images, sure, but they also put me in that place where I stood in awe. I was in the right state of mind to recognize those scenes I ended up capturing with my camera. Those moments are very, very rare. I get out to take photos almost every day, and yet I run into conditions like those only once or twice a year. That's what makes them special. They are magical days. There were and there are plenty of other special times, though, not at that level of magic, but pretty close. You can tell which ones were like that by going into my photo library and looking at how many pictures I took each day. This is also what happened during this road trip across Norway. I've just started to share my contact sheets from this trip on my Patreon page, and if you are there, you'll notice that some days have very few photographs, while a few of them might have hundreds. Those were the rainy, foggy, moody days. That's the photography I want to make because it resonates more with me. It's those gray and dark days that connect with something deeper inside me. It's the images I like to see, it's the images I like to make, the images that speak to me and touch me. This is probably different, and it should be, for you and other photographers, especially those who shoot in color. This time right here, right now, is the time for color photography. You see, the sun never gets too high in the sky at this time of the year, and the light is amazing all day long. Not quite golden hour, but very, very soft for the barely 7 hours of daylight we are getting now. It's absolutely beautiful. These could have been someone else's very magical moments. As you can see, I'm still getting out these days because, as I usually say, there is always an image to be made no matter where we are and no matter the conditions. And I actually made a few images that I like. They are just much harder to find, mainly because we might not be in the right mindset to see them. It is when we love what we see outside that we feel that urge to get out and take photographs. It is when we love the conditions that we see images everywhere. We feel more inspired. We shoot more because what we see makes us wonder. This is why I say that the best images usually come from just a handful of days. Now, what I'm not saying here, I'm not advocating that we should stay home when the conditions are less than perfect. Quite the contrary. That's why I'm here. That's why I've been getting out every day. Knowing how clumsy I am, there is no way I can make it out of here alive. There's just ice everywhere, which is too bad because I was pretty close to the top and I'm pretty sure that the view would have been very nice from up there, but it is what it is. And yes, it's much easier when you are traveling and in a place as beautiful as Norway, of course. But again, there's always an image out there waiting for us to be made. And even though we might not be as productive on these kind of days and we might come back empty-handed, this is part of the journey. This is why it's so important to love the whole process with its successes and its failures. It's about being outdoors and enjoying our time. And if we happen to see something, we can capture it. And if not, that's fine because we practice our search for beauty. I cannot emphasize enough the loving the process part. We should not force ourselves to create something that we don't feel. I've talked before about how I have to push myself to get out some mornings because it's dark, cold and rainy out here and the bed does feel good, but it all changes once I'm outside. Then the excitement takes over. It's just that first step that is hard for me. That's also all I can control about photography, putting myself out here as often as I can, ready with my camera in hand, and then I try and try again. But I don't always feel it. Sometimes I just don't see anything, no matter how much I try. It's not working, and on those days, I just accept it and move on. There will be another opportunity tomorrow. I also see these kind of days as just simply put, practice. Photography is a little bit tricky because it might seem simple. It's just about pressing a button after all, but it's so much more than that. There are so many factors that can play in our favor or against us. By practicing as often as possible, we can be better prepared for when those magical moments do arrive. My worst nightmare is to get the perfect day at the perfect location and not be ready, not be prepared. Just imagine that we do get that and we struggle to use our camera, or we have issues with our clothing, or we lack a vision in general. It is because I go out almost every day that I'm ready, or at least better prepared than I would be otherwise for whatever comes today, tomorrow, or whenever. I train my eyes to pay attention and look for something beautiful to photograph. This is how I got so familiar with my camera that now when I'm out here in the field, it just disappears. It's second nature to me. I know what to expect from my camera and from the lens that I'm using. By getting out, I also find shortcomings in my process. I can detect what works and what doesn't when the stakes are lower, like today. The last thing I want to do is to miss out on those very magical days because of something I could have practiced beforehand. And because I shoot every day and I edit those photos trying to make them as good as possible, I also know what to expect from almost every possible situation. It is also through this repetition that I get to develop my own style, always evolving. None of this happens when the light is right, when the conditions are perfect. All of this is the result of hundreds of hours of practicing, of thousands of bad photos. It's about loving all of this. And you just never know where the next good image is going to come from or when it's going to happen. It might happen the next time we press the shutter. It might not happen for another 500 shots. We don't know, and that's what makes photography so beautiful. These are my last few days here in Western Norway. Sadly, the weather hasn't been the best for my photography. It's been mostly sunny and clear. We have some clouds today, so that's good, but it's also been very, very windy and very cold. in the last video I posted, I had a beautiful rainy and foggy and very moody day, and I made many more images that one day that I have here for the last 10 to 12 days. And that's how it goes sometimes. Even though I say that this place is even more beautiful and more dramatic than the place where I was back then, but yeah, as I've been saying in this video, the best images come from a handful of days. We need to be aware of this and manage our expectations accordingly, but also we must not forget that we have to train, to practice, to be ready and prepared for when those moments finally arrive. This is why a daily practice is so important, so we can polish our workflow, our process, so when the magic happens in front of us, we can focus on capturing it. Anyway, I hope this video was useful. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep looking for more images. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.